Good morning, guys, and welcome to the show. Today we have something that you guys, and myself included, have been waiting for anxiously for a while now. If you're an Alpine fan, you're not going to want to miss this. F1 Status. That's all I'm going to say. F1 Status. We're here today with Steve Brown and Chris DeGoo in the Tesla F1 Status. We're gonna learn all about it today.
Yes, you are.
It's your turn.
All right, I guess I'm up. Hi, guys. I'm Steve Brown from Alpine Electronics. I'm the Director of New Business Development. I've been with Alpine for just about 27 years, and I've had the unique privilege of being able to introduce each and every Alpine F1 Status system that we've ever built. How many do you think that is?
4.
3. This is number 3.
Close enough.
That's good. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I knew it was 3 hours.
All right, I'll give you.
It
You want me
interesting.
to, another pop quiz for you? What year do you think number 1 came out?
Oh, I have no idea.
2000.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into that in the speech.
Okay.
Okay. Are you ready for the speech?
Give me the speech.
All right, here we go. So first off, I'm going to explain why. Because if you don't understand why, none of this really makes any sense, okay? You have to understand the philosophy behind Alpine F1 Status. The philosophy is take advantage of the best digital medium that's available at the time, okay? So in 2000, we launched our first system based on CD. CD resolution is 44K, right?
16-bit.
16-bit. 44K, 16-bit. The bit rate is about 1500 kilobits per second, okay? Just for rough numbers. Now, in 2004, we introduced a DVD audio-based system. It was multi-channel because that was kind of the trend at the time. But since then, what's happened is high-resolution digital music has really become the standard, right? And it's become possible because of the advances in electronics that make the data transfer possible. That's what you have to understand is the bigger the file, the more data that's in the file. The more data that's in the file, the more detail that's in the file. Data equals detail, okay? So you remember Napster?
No, never.
Yes, you do. Napster was probably a perfect example of what's wrong with digital music when it's compressed, right? Because a lot of the tracks sounded terrible because they were compressed so much to reduce the file size that they take out all the detail, or a lot of the important detail. So our goal with Alpine F1 Status was to put all of the detail in, meaning that we want to play back full studio res, high resolution digital audio. Now currently the state of the art in digital high resolution studio recording is 384K, 32-bit. So that's 384,000. That's your cycle rate.
Huge.
Huge. CD again, 44.1. Okay. And the bit rate is 32, again, compared to CD, which is 16. The data rate, you ready? 25,000 kilobits every second. Think about that for a second. That means each track, a 3-minute...
I mean, I could, but then I would have processed a lot of
I did a lot of math to prepare. So check this out. So a 3-minute song is about 500 megabytes. A 5-minute song is almost a gig. Okay.
Yeah.
Now the system uses a player that has about 3/4 of a terabyte of capacity. That means you can store about 750 full res 384K 32-bit songs. That gives you an idea of the file size that we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the first thing you have to understand. In order to play back full studio res, that's the state of the art. That's our goal. Right now, really the best available, mostly the best available high res is 192.24, which is really good. Okay. Kind of the next level high res is, which is the level just above CD would be 96.24. Okay. Data rate there is about 4 kilobits per second, or 4,000 kilobits per second. The data with 192 is about 9,000 kilobits per second. Remember, 384, now you go to 25,000 kilobits per second. Okay, so it's about 20 times the data of a CD.
I hope you guys are paying attention to all this math, because
you can have some like really cool like in the background.
There will be a test.
Yeah, there will be a test, right? So the point is, we want to, with this new generation Alpine F1 Status system, the goal is to be able to reproduce 384K 32-bit tracks, okay? So to do that, we have to basically reinvent the wheel when it comes to car audio. The speakers and the amplifiers are evolutionary, meaning they are a result of everything that we've learned over our 30, 40 plus years of being in business, okay? We've applied everything. We literally threw the kitchen sink at the amplifiers and the speakers to make them the best they could possibly be. But to make the processor capable of the digital part, because remember, that's the analog part, to make the processor and the head unit capable of the digital part, we literally had to reinvent the wheel. So think of it like an orchestra. So in most systems, most high-res systems even, you have a head unit that has a processor built into it, right? Every digital part, every digital watch, every digital computer, every digital everything has a clock built into it because it has to count. Computers count. They just count really, really fast. That counting rate is controlled by the clocking speed in a computer. Every computer, including the Alpine F1 Status system, has a clock, okay? So with 384K, the speeds are ridiculously fast. So let's go back to our let's think of it as an orchestra, right? If I'm standing in front of the orchestra, I'm the clock, okay? And the orchestra playing is the system, okay? So when I'm waving my hands to guide the orchestra, really what's happening is I'm clocking the system over here, but my processor downstream has its own clock built in it, right? So it's clocking over here at its own rate, which works okay at regular bit rates. But when you get to 384K, it gets so fast, faster, that you can no longer keep up. And the two clocks can never be in sync. It's impossible to sync them. So what you have to do is you have to make one clock that controls the whole system. So the whole digital system is controlled by one, what we call a master clock. That master clock is the coolest freaking thing about this entire system, okay? You're gonna geek out and we're gonna take you over and show you the inside of this processor. It'll explain what I'm talking about. But in simple terms, okay, digital clocks are based on quartz crystals, okay? Now what's really cool about quartz crystals is when you put electricity on a quartz crystal, it'll vibrate, just like a tuning fork, okay? That vibration frequency is the clocking speed of the computer, okay? So whatever that clocking speed of that crystal is, you can guarantee that if you ping it with that voltage, it's gonna resonate at that frequency. Now, that works great, except for one major problem. Quartz crystals are susceptible to heat, meaning when they change temperature, they change resonance frequency. Can you think of an environment that might change temperature drastically?
Coming from Florida, we never have fluctuation in temperature at all. It's always a beautiful 70 degrees.
Yeah, well, I live here in Las Vegas, and I can tell you, interior temps can get 140, 150. Oof. So, you're going from Michigan, right, where we're based out of. Right now, it's, I don't know, probably minus 30 based on what my driveway looks like, to, 150, let's call it. But that crystal has to maintain the same clocking speed, because if it changes, we've got problems.
Yeah, okay? The whole show just falls apart.
Right, because remember, we went back to let's go back to our example of the orchestra. So we have two different conductors, right? When those two different conductors, meaning two different clocks and two different components, when they mismatch, when they're at the wrong time, that's called jitter. Jitter, okay? In digital music, you have to eliminate jitter. That's very important.
I was singing a Wham song. That just popped in my head. I was like, that's going to be stuck in my head for the rest of the day.
Okay. I wouldn't have gone there, but that's pretty reference. If you can afford it, maybe you can add the song in for like a nice little party. Yeah, I probably wouldn't recommend it. Jitter blurs the signal, okay? That's the issue that we have. So when you get to these higher and higher and higher clocking speeds, that jitter becomes a much more prevalent problem, because the faster you go, the harder it is to maintain that perfect timing, right? So it's like the faster you go, the harder the goal gets. You know what I mean? From 192 to 384, it's an exponentially higher bit rate to be able to get there. That's why we go from 192.24 about what 9,000 kilobits per second, now up here at 25,000 kilobits per second.
Staggering.
So the clocking speed. So the clock has to be perfect. So what we did, and we kind of talked about how we reinvented the wheel with the digital side of this. So what we did is we have kind of three components that manage the digital architecture of the system. The first two are at the front end, okay? So you have the DAP. The DAP is the digital audio player, DAP 7909. What it does, it's actually it's a collaboration with Astle and Kern, who's a quality portable device maker. So we wanted a device that had enough data capacity and the transfer capacity to be able to pass 384K32. So their player makes it possible. Now what we do is we take that input from the high-res signal and we have to basically manage it internally with our own system. So the head unit and the processor work together and they share this high-speed master clock that syncs the signal between the front and back. What we do is we put the clock inside the actual processor. The data transfer is done by an A to B digital connection. The reason we use A to B is because Toslink's not nearly fast enough. There's no way Toslink can handle the data transfer speeds that we're talking about here. So the clock goes in the processor. The two components are synced by a bus. That bus is always running at 384K32. No matter if I've got my radio from my factory stereo going into it, or I have 384K32 going into it, the data transfer between the head unit and the processor is 384-32 all the time. And what makes that possible is the master clock. So now we're going to get into what makes the master clock so cool. So inside of the processor, we have this clocking device. It's just crystal quartz. We have it built into an oven because that controls the temperature. So once we go from 150 degrees in the car to minus 30 in the car, we want that crystal to always be the same temperature to avoid jitter, because we want to make sure that clocking speed is always exactly the same. Now, that clocking speed is managed by the temperature of that crystal quartz. So what we do is we make the oven inside about 150, 160 degrees.
So maximum temperature.
Right. Yep. So that means
perfect neutral point.
Exactly. That's the neutral point. So the crystal at that perfect temperature is always exactly clocking at this perfect speed. So we can control it no matter if it's minus 32 in the car, or it's 50 in the car, or it's 150 in the car. The clocking, the sound is always exactly the same. Okay, that's really the huge innovation in the system and what makes it possible.
So one thing to add too is this isn't necessarily new technology. It is in the car, absolutely new. No one's ever done it in the car. This actually exists in the home. Some people use master clocks. We're talking about $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 components to manage multiple things inside the home stereo. We're bringing that into the car.
Exactly. And you know, the other application for this kind of technology is military, because you can imagine a clock, a computer that has to operate precisely, because it's life or death, in a wildly different environment. And so that's why these Duculon type components are built. They're actually, it's a plastic oven. It's a little clear oven with these crystals built into it. And we'll show you in the processor. It's actually built encased in a complete copper case to avoid interference. That kind of gives you the why of F1 Status. The ability of us to transfer these huge data files now. We can take this great studio level digital recording, right, and play it back in the car, unmolested, untouched, uncompressed, and nothing's been removed. So literally every detail, every nuance of the music comes across clearly. And once you hear the demo, I think you'll agree. We have a curated demo in this car. It's about 10 minutes long. And it's about showing, you know, the difference between like low res or, you know, regular high res, good high res, and Alpine level high res, okay? And it literally goes from the difference of hearing something versus feeling and being in the room with it. That's the difference. From here, I want to get into the vehicle. We're sitting in our brand new Alpine F1 Status demo vehicle. This is a 2018 Tesla Model S P100D. We chose this vehicle very specifically because it really creates a great audio platform. It's quiet, obviously, because it's electric. It has a huge, you know, perfect 400 volt, you know, stabilized battery underneath it that feeds a 12 volt battery all the time. So it's a great stable audio platform. And it's also symmetrically designed. As you guys know, you know, most of the electric car designs are going towards a more flat, lower style dash with a center stack. That makes for a great audio playback capability because it makes the car even on both sides. So what we did in this particular vehicle, we actually rebuilt the entire dash. We wanted to lower the dash even further and make it symmetrical left to right. We enclosed the mid and tweeter components from our Alpine F1 Status system in the dashboard. And we actually made an enclosure that's lit up and you can see it from outside windshield, so you can actually look inside. That enclosure is for the mid. The tweeter actually has its own enclosure. Then you can see in the center of the dash, we have what looks like an amplifier. It's actually kind of an homage to the Alpine amplifier and processor design, which is a green, you know, that green, beautiful center chiclet. And flowing down the dash, we integrated the center stack. Now what you might notice is there's no center gauge cluster. The reason that we took the gauge cluster out of this car is so that we could make the dash more symmetrical. as it was, you had the left mounted gauge cluster. We wanted to put it in the center of the vehicle. So we actually motorized it to pop out the top of the dash. So when we're driving it, we can motorize it up. When we're in listening mode, we can motorize it down, and it makes the dash nice and clean and flat. So the image is the same on both sides. Now, below the stock MCU screen, we have the head unit, which is the beautiful Alpine HDS 7909 digital audio player. This thing is really designed to be kind of a throwback design. You know, it has the 6 screen chiclets. It also does blue, but with a more modern feel. It has a beautiful center knob with a very nice hydraulic rotary action. And it has some really nice touches, like the ability to see when you're playing the actual bit rate right on the screen, and the ability to see when you're playing, and then we can see what happens. The second light will actually come on when the Duquilon master clock is engaged, when it's up to temperature. It's kind of like, think of it like an old tube amp, right? When they had to come up to temp, it's kind of the throwback to that, right? But it actually is the processor coming up to temperature, and it takes about 10 or 15 seconds to come up to full speed.
Ooh, 10 or 15 whole seconds?
Yeah, right?
Oh,
a lot quicker than a tube amp.
I don't know, that seems like a really long time.
So then, you know, from the head unit, obviously we have a digital connection back to the processor, right? So the processor is really the heart. We talked about the master clock system that's built into that processor that controls the really high 384K clocking speed. Now, once we come out of the processor, you know, we also have to manage the analog side of the system. So what we've done is we've actually implemented Pro Sound technology, which has been around for many, many years in the form of XLR connections between the processor and the amplifier. And the beauty of an XLR is, first of all, you're 8 volts. Most RCAs are around 4. It's a balanced connection, which an RCA is not. A balanced connection actually has a signal going both directions, and it's compared on both sides. And anything that's not the same is considered noise and it's rejected. So it really makes for a great high resolution analog playback support. We go XLR into the amps, and then from the amps we go speaker level out. A word about the processor itself. One of the real innovations is the actual computer that's built into it. It's a very high performance computer. It actually allows us to time correct to within 0.9 millimeters. Okay, so that means if I have a speaker, I can actually pretend that that speaker is 0.9 millimeters difference in distance to my ear to adjust the time correction. So it's literally, it can be dialed in perfectly. So it's within, I mean, you're moving your head, what, maybe that much?
Yeah.
Right? So we can really dial it in precisely. So from there, obviously the digital side is, you know, pretty much perfect coming out of the processor. Our goal from then is to maintain that perfection. You know, the amps are really the unsung heroes in this system. There's 2 of these amps. They're 4-channel amps. They're 4 by 100. They also double their power to 2 ohms, and they're actually quite underrated. But there's some great stuff built into these things. You know, all of the things that we've learned, you know, we revolutionized the amplifier industry in 2006 with the PDX digital amplifier. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
From there, we actually took that technology and we evolved it and made it better and better. And what makes an amplifier, a digital amplifier, good is error correction. That's what it takes to make it perform correctly. So we actually have a dual error correction circuit in these amps. The input is corrected, and then the output side is also corrected. That means that we can make sure that whatever's coming into that amp is coming out. And the dual power supplies. There's actually a separate power supply for the positive side and a separate power supply for the negative side. So it's like having 2 amplifiers built into one.
Wow.
Okay. And then you got to look at the specs. So how about 4 hertz to 100,000 hertz with a 3 dB spread? Does that sound pretty good? 4 hertz
Okay.
to 100,000 hertz minus
3.
3
Minus
dB.
3 dB.
I mean,
Kinda
you
ridiculous.
know,
That's pretty good,
Not bad.
was Chewy out there barking?
right? 115 dB signal to noise ratio. Okay, and my favorite one, 0.003% harmonic distortion. That's 3/1000ths of 1% harmonic distortion at 10 watts.
I mean, it's not bad.
It's pretty good. It's
It's
pretty good.
okay.
It's all right. And it'll do it like in any temperature, all the time, efficiently, you know. So there's that.
There is that.
Okay, so that's pretty good. And then we go to the speakers, which the speakers are kind of the easy part because we've been doing speakers for a long time.
Yeah, but it wasn't because you guys
We
decided
took
to
a
make
lot
it
of time.
hard.
We did. We always make everything hard, but that's okay because it comes out good that way. Speakers. It's very simple, actually. And, you know, the other thing, this is probably a good time to point out. When we're talking about these components, they're not sold individually. It's a system. We sell this as one complete sound system front to back. right?
I think you'd have to though, just because of the way it's all designed and how what
the components.
Yeah, I mean what you're describing to us, I think kind of explains why it's like, no, you can't just buy this, you can't just buy that, because like there's 3 components up front, including the DSP, but they will definitely not work independently of one another. So it's not like you could just buy that DSP and expect it to integrate in any other system. It just
because how would you get an input into it, right? The connectivity is really the key
and I
to
think,
making it all work.
I think that is one of the things, and why I wanted to do this with you guys is because a lot of people just don't understand that, because we're just so used to, well, here's a box, yeah, all these boxes, we're just going to put it together in a package and here you go.
Yeah,
that's
and
not the case.
To be able to do what we're doing with this system, the system has to be a system. There's no way to do it individually because you can't get the clock to work. It won't work fast enough, right? You know, the speaker part of it, really, we again kind of evolved what we've learned over many, many years. It's a 4-way speaker system. You have an 11-inch subwoofer, 2 7-inch mid basses. You have 2 3-inch mid ranges and 2 2.5-inch tweeters, let's call them. Okay, it's a big tweeter. It's what we call a ring radiator, and it's actually a design that we used in our 2nd generation F1 Status system as well. And it's the dispersion pattern and the ability to really control it is the advantage of that tweeter, and it's completely independent of mounting as far as enclosure because it has its own chamber behind it. It's all machined aluminum as well. It's beautiful.
Which Alpine likes to do with a lot of their tweeters.
Yeah, we do. Actually, we have some designs in the works that are similar, that are, you know, designed to bring this similar level of performance a little bit down, but still really good. So
and that's what we keep telling you guys we can't talk about. He worked that in very subtly, by the way.
Your 3-way speakers, your subwoofer. We also have the ability to add a 2nd sub if you want. And we did that in this car.
Yeah.
So the system itself with 1 subwoofer is $35,000 retail. Okay. The additional subwoofer is $2,600. So the system in this car is $37,600, which pales in comparison to the amount of labor. It's probably about 1,000 hours. And I should shout out, by the way, our team in Auburn Hills was a fantastic resource for this project, because these guys are all ex-car audio guys, first of all, which is super cool. So they've come from our background. They build this kind of stuff. They love building this kind of stuff. So when we said, hey guys, can you build us this fantastic vehicle? They jumped at the chance, and they were really, really engaged with the process.
It was great because we didn't have to tell them anything about F1. They knew F1 because they were part of this world. So
they're Alpine fans, just like we are.
What to do for this?
Absolutely. You know? So they nailed it. So this design is really designed to, you know, it's meant to complement the product. It's meant to complement the car and blend with the car, right? And you see the way that the system flows from front to back. If you didn't know it, you probably wouldn't even know that this wasn't a stock dash, other than the fact that it's got some really beautiful jewelry-looking speakers built
very
into the
Tesla-esque.
It is, right? It's very symmetrical. It's actually closer in design to the brand new Plaid car, right?
Yeah.
And we even did the steering wheel modification to make it kind of a, you know,
Platy.
But it also it's for effect, because if that wasn't done like that, that steering wheel would perfectly block that left tweeter for me in the passenger seat. We can't have that.
No, not at all. You know, we're talking about building cars, and I feel I'd be a little... I feel like I would have left something out for the people that are watching this. You've built a couple cars in the past.
Yeah, I have. I've got a little bit of experience with this. It used to be my job with Alpine back in the day, and actually, the first F1 Status vehicle was my vehicle. It was a BMW M3. That we did this exact thing to. We literally rebuilt the entire car inside, which it looked fairly stock outside, so kind of a similar kind of approach. And I also built the 2nd generation F1 Status demo car, which was an X5, based on a BMW X5. We call it the ULM. That vehicle...
Seats that came on with the side.
It did. It had... the doors were actually welded together on the sides, and it had the front seat and the rear seat basically like theater. Think center seating, but one person behind the other. And when it opened, the door would take the driver's side big door would take the driver's seat out, and the passenger side big door would take the passenger seat out.
So I'll geek out for a minute and tell you that, of course, I had that auto sound or car, whatever magazine.
Yeah.
And
I have every one of them.
And I would literally just sit there and go, screw this guy.
just screw Steve Brown.
God, man, come on, really? Oh, Well, you know, it's because
You can pretend I'm a jerk if you want.
No, I know you're not. So it's okay. I know you're not. Honestly,
we love this stuff, really. I mean,
yeah.
like Chris and I, like, to be able to launch this thing. You know, Chris has been instrumental in the, you know, just everything. Like, from the testing phase, we were the first ones to ever have an F1 Status system in the U.S. In his car, his Civic, which has been the guinea pig for every Alpine thing that we've ever built since he's owned it, became the first car that we put F1 Status in. And so I say I should point this out as well. So the system isn't just a system, right? It's like a support mechanism for dealers, right? All of the dealers have Alpine behind them with the system, and to the extent that we help them with the installation process, as far as the aiming and the directioning of the speakers and the design of the system, and the tuning process when it's all done. We have 3 tuners that we can deploy nationwide. Okay, Chris.
Really?
Yeah, Chris is one of them. Okay. We also have Dan Greenwood. He's in the central U.S. He's based out of Texas.
Dallas, yep.
Yep, Dallas. And then we have Colin Vargo, who's based out of the Jersey area.
Wow.
So, yeah, we have 3 tuners, all experts. We also have a tuning kit specifically designed to tune this car, because you can't put an audio control RTA in here. It only goes up to 20K. This thing can do 100,000 hertz, right?
You know, it was funny you say that, because one of the conversations we were having when this was introduced was, how are they going to tune it with the current range of frequency response on RTA? This is so far outside of that.
Yep.
Our thought was, are they going to make their own RTA to deal with it?
Well, we actually partnered with a company in Japan, and we used an Itani RTA. And what's really special about it, besides the fact that it basically clocks at the speed that our system clocks and allows it to be, you know, compatible with super high res, but it also, we used a microphone that's very unique. It actually uses what look like human ears. They're actually silicone ears. And it comes, it's a stereo mic. It comes in a little box that's, you know, sound deadened, and that thing is loud. It's meant to go on a seat, so you can put it on a tripod or clip it on a mount that comes with it. So that's designed to tune the system. Obviously, you know, the processor is tuned from the computer, so the software and that stuff is built into there. And you even have a laser measuring tool. So a very, very, do you remember the precision on it? It's like within 1/10 of a millimeter or something, right?
1/10 or 100th?
Yeah. This laser measuring tool. So when you're dialing in the time correction, right? We talked about the level of detail, right? 0.9 millimeters. So I can move that speaker.
Right on.
It's got to be right on. So we have this incredibly accurate Bosch meter, like digital, you know, laser rangefinder to be able to measure it. So we deploy these folks, when the system is done, to deploy these tools on the system, right? We have a process that we go through to tune the system that we've practiced, and we're getting pretty dang good at it.
We're guaranteeing success.
Guaranteeing success, 100%. All right, back to the speakers. So one of the things that was really innovative about this set is that they're all made of the same material. So from the tweeter to the mid bass, even down to the subwoofer, the cone material is exactly the same. And that means that we're able to control the timbre of the system. And that means that it's really natural, and it doesn't need a lot of EQ out of the box as a result. And it's one of the things that we've learned about all the systems that we've tuned so far is that they're actually really close.
Less is more.
Less is more, you know, and it takes a lot of the guesswork, and it takes a lot of the errors that you normally find with a typical system. Just it takes it away. We've got 4 or 5 hours of tuning in this car. I mean, and it sounds phenomenal. Yes, we could dial it and tweak it the more we listen, and maybe you'll find some things, but what we hear with the system is there's the kinds of little, you know, peaks that you normally hear when you listen to music for a long time, or you try different tracks. This thing just doesn't have that. It just eats everything up. It wants to play everything. Our demo includes, you know, it includes blues, it includes like modern pop, it includes a rap song in our demo, in our F1 Status demo.
Not a rap song.
Never a rap song. But actually, Outkast has been doing high-res rap forever. And they're phenomenally talented, as a side note. But it's like, you know, this system can eat everything. And it makes you want to turn everything up, which I think is the best thing you can say about a system, right? If you want to keep turning that thing up to get every ounce out of it, you know, that's F1. I mean, it is that good.
It's never loud enough.
So you need a sound demo. That's one thing.
We do need a sound demo. Now, I will say this. we're going to end the video here because the sound demo is going to have a bunch of DRM protected music. So we've talked about the car. This video is going to be followed by a part 2 to where it's just going to be the sound demo with the sultry voice of Chris Tagoo talking in our ears and explaining to us the joy that is, well, you know what it's going to be.
So, what's the verdict?
Wow.
It's nice.
It's, Yeah, I don't think nice. Okay, that's just spinning. It's spinning. It's like a 1,000. I don't think nice isn't a big enough word.
Bigger word?
I think you need a bigger word.
Really nice?
I mean, if we're gonna play that game, really nice.
It's the difference between hearing it and being there with it.
I mean, yes, that was a great selection, by the way. Way to go, way to go. Definitely,
thank you.
My man, right here.
Yeah,
Just to
definitely pulled it out, and that the ending was by far the best.
Yeah.
Because you get out and you're happy. A lot of people aren't going to be able to, like, because we listen to a lot of good cars.
Oh yeah.
And it's impressive. This is nothing like that, because it's in a different. It's just it's different. And I was thinking of something the whole time until you played that last song and just totally screwed up my train of thought. But yeah, this is just something that has to be experienced, because we were talking yesterday, and it was like, yeah, you know, and it's like top down, 50 miles an hour doing, but no, this is definitely, yeah.
It's pretty cool to know this is the future, right? So imagine 10 years down the road, you're in your autonomous vehicle, and maybe you don't have to drive it. You've got your beautiful sound system playing, your video going, you've got all your entertainment in there. I mean, that's where we're headed.
I think
we're just ahead of it.
Part of the whole F1 and the super high-res music, it's kind of bringing back, actually enjoying music again.
Yeah.
We've gotten so complacent just playing music in the background.
Well, yeah, I mean,
and digital got a bad rap
when
at
you're
the
talking
beginning
about
too,
Napster, it just kind of destroyed it. And
exactly.
now it's getting way
but
better.
It's taken. Napster was cool, what, 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
It's taken that long. I mean, because the tech had to evolve, the data transfer, all the stuff we talked about. And now we're there, almost there, really there. But, all it's going to do now is get better and more convenient. But the capability to take a studio track and not compress it at all and play it back in your car. I mean, come on. How cool is that?
So the invisibility of... So, I mean, this is just like, hey, speaker. But the invisibility of the sound, because it's almost better than real.
Yeah.
In a way, it's almost better than real. And I know that sounds odd, but...
It's its own little perfect sound cocoon in here, right?
Yeah. And that's... If you ever get the opportunity to listen to this, of course, don't pass it up.
Hey, by the way, we're taking it on a sound tour in 2020, guys. 2022. By the way, we're taking it on a sound tour in 2022, guys, so stay tuned.
Yeah, if you do if it does come to your town, you're going to want to hear it. Just because it's something
it's that
to
good.
experience.
I mean, it actually, we're jaded veterans. We've been doing this forever. And like I said, we've done every best of system that Alpine's ever done, right? And this thing is in its own league, and it's just a level above and beyond anything.
It's exciting.
Yeah,
especially
it is.
for old, guys who've been doing this for a long time. It's like,
which I'm sure you guys have experienced over the weekend here of letting people listen to it. I can't be the only one that just doesn't want to just say, dude, yeah, that's great. Because it's not giving it justice.
Right.
Because it's not, dude, man, that's great. This is just like, I need to just sit back and digest what we just took in.
Well, and I told you that at the end we were going to have this nice Alpine wrap-up brand message, right? So now's the time for that Alpine wrap-up brand message. Are you ready for it?
Yes.
All right. So this Alpine F1 Status system is the ultimate in high-resolution playback, right? And the reason that we built this system was to just experience the excitement of music again. But we understand this is the premium level. It's really expensive, right? It's a one-off system. We're not going to make very many of these things. Because it's honestly, it's very challenging to build and engineer a system like this, right? And it takes a company with the resources, the expertise, the knowledge of Alpine to be able to do this. And that's really the key. The great news is we're taking this and we're bringing it to the rest of our Alpine lineup, okay? High resolution is going to be the main story in the Alpine lineup moving forward from this point. Alpine F1 Status is the tip of the iceberg, okay? So what's coming is in a lot of ways even more exciting because it's not just for a rich guy in his cool car, it's for everybody.
Yes, and stay tuned, you'll find out more about that. It's gonna be exciting, and we're just happy to be here and be part of it. Listen guys, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. Thank you for putting the effort in and pushing the envelope, destroying the envelope, just moving on past the envelope to F1 status. For those of you guys out there that are doubters or naysayers who just really don't understand it, I totally understand. This is hopefully going to help you wrap your mind around the concept that Alpine put into place here, why it's different from its two previous versions and how that all worked together, and just the amount of effort and time that it took to build the product, let alone this car, to experience it in. It's Alpine.
It was truly our pleasure.
Hey, it was my pleasure to sit in here and listen to it. Yay! All right, guys. Right on. Thank you guys so much for giving us your time. You guys have a great night as always. We'll see you later next time. Bye.